Hello everyone and welcome to e-sipnayan. For this video, I will be discussing constructing discrete probability distribution. Let's have the first example. A coin is tossed 2 times and the random variable x represents the number of heads that appear. Construct the discrete probability distribution. Now, in constructing a discrete probability distribution, the first thing to identify is are the values of the random variable. So, ang random variable natin sa problem na to ay x, and x represents the number of heads. Okay, so the values of random variable x are 0, 1, and 2. These are the values of the random variable x. So, bakit 0, 1, at 2? So, una, 0 kasi kapag tinos natin yung coin 2 times, it is possible na ang parehas na outcome nun ay tails. So, that will be tails, tails. So, pag tails, tails, ibig sabihin walang heads kasi parehas na tails yung lumabas. Pwede rin na ang lumabas na outcome ay heads, tails, or kaya tails, head. So, pag yun yung outcome, therefore, the random variable is 1. Now, it is also possible na 2 yung ating random variable kasi pwedeng ang maging outcome natin dito ay heads, heads. Okay? So, therefore, since heads, heads yung outcome, 2 yung random variable. Okay, next is to construct the discrete probability distribution by getting the probability of each random variable. So, we have here the table for discrete probability distribution, x and probability of x. Okay? So, we compute for the probability of each random variable. Okay, so let's start first with probability of x is equal to 0. So, ibig sabihin nito, walang heads na lalabas. Okay, so ibig sabihin ng outcome ay tails, tails. We can write all the outcomes of this experiment. So, ang lahat ng outcome natin ay tails, 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 heads, heads, tails, and heads, heads. So, these are all the possible outcome. So, to compute for the probability that x is 0, first we have to know the number of favorable outcomes and also the number of all possible outcomes. So, ang formula natin dito ay favorable sa numerator over all possible. So, pag sinabing all possible outcome, lahat ng possible outcome na pwedeng lumabas sa isang experiment. So, ito po iyon, lahat ito. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, ang denominator natin ay 4. Tas ang favorable natin ay kapag ang random variable natin ay 0. So, if that's the case, walang heads. And we have one outcome for that, which is tails, tails. So, we have 1. So, the probability that x is 0 is 1 over 4. Next, we compute for probability that x is equal to 1. So, pag x is equal to 1, ibig sabihin nito, there is 1 heads in the outcome. So, again, ang all possible outcome natin, ang denominator natin ay 4. And then, ang ating numerator ay kung ilan yung outcome na isa yung heads na lalabas. So, here are the outcomes, yung tails, head, at yung heads, tails. So, this is 1, 2. So, 2 favorable outcomes. Then, simplify, this is 1/2. So, the probability that x is equal to 1 is 1/2. Next, probability that x is equal to 2. So, ibig sabihin ng x is equal to 2, dalawa yung heads na lalabas sa outcome. So, we have one favorable outcome for that, which is heads, heads. So, that is 1, again, over all possible outcomes, 4. So, the probability that x is equal to 2 is 1/4. And this table is what we call, again, the discrete probability distribution. Okay? So, in discrete probability distribution, we compute for the probability of each random variable. Okay, next. Let's proceed to the next problem. On an average delivery of power banks, there are 3 defective power banks out of 20. Suppose y gives the number of defective power banks in a delivery of 5 power banks. Construct the discrete probability distribution of random variable y. So, ang random variable y natin will be the number of defective power banks. Number of defective power banks. Power banks. Alright. So, ang ating situation dito, there are 20 power banks and 3 of these are defective. So, there are 20 power banks tapos 3 dito ay defective. So, ibig sabihin, the rest are non-defective. So, there are 17 non-defective power banks because 20 minus 3, 17. So, ang experiment is there will be a delivery of 5 power banks. So, meaning we have to get 5 power banks here, dito sa 20 power banks. And, yung random variable natin ay kung ilan yung makukuhang defective power banks kapag kumuha tayo ng 5. Okay? So, since there are 3 defective power banks, the values of the random variable y will be 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So, ito yung mga values ng random variable. So, it is possible na kapag kumuha tayo ng 5 power banks dito sa 20, wala tayong makukuhang defective. Okay? Posible rin na makakuha tayo ng 1 defective, 2 defective, or 3 defective na power banks. Okay? So, that will be, this will be the values of the random variable y. Next is, we construct the discrete probability distribution by computing the probability of each random variable. So, let's have the table again. So, y and then probability of y. So, we have here 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then, let's compute for the probability of each. Let's start first with probability that y is equal to 0. So, again, the formula for computing for the probability, favorable over possible. So, let's have first the denominator. So, ano ang denominator natin dito? Let's analyze the situation again. You have to get, ang pinaka-experiment dito is kukuha ka ng 5 power banks sa 20. Okay? So, 5 is taken from 20 power banks randomly. So, to know the number of all possible outcomes, we have to use the concept of combination. So, therefore, the number of all possible outcomes is 20 choose 5. So, that will be our denominator. And what will be the numerator? Ito na yung favorable. Okay? So, ang favorable natin, dapat walang makuha sa defective power banks kasi y is equal to 0. So, kapag kumuha tayo ng 5, dapat wala tayong makukuhang defective. So, 0 defective and the rest are non-defective na. So, therefore, kukuha tayo ng 5 sa 17. So, we should be getting 5 non-defective. So, to compute for the number of favorable outcomes, that will be, kukuha ka ng 0 sa 3, so that will be 3 choose 0, and, so this is multiplication rule, times 17 choose 5. Okay? So, this will be the solution in getting the probability of y is equal to 0. And if we will be using our calculator, this is 91 over 228. So, we multiply the outcomes if we will be getting 0, defective, and 5 non-defective. Okay? Next, probability that y is equal to 1. So again, our all possible outcomes is 20 choose 5. And then, ang favorable natin, we should be getting 1 defective and the rest are non-defective. So since 5 yung kukunin, 4 are non-defective. So, to solve for the number of favorable outcomes, kukuha tayo ng 1 dito sa 3 defective. So, that's 3, choose 1, and, so, times. And kukuha tayo ng 4 sa 17 na non-defective. So, that is 17, choose 4. Okay, and then let's use our calculator to compute. This is 35 over 76. So, this will be the probability that y is equal to 1. Next, probability that y is equal to 2. So, again, our all possible outcomes is 20 choose 5. Kasi ang pinaka-situation natin dito, again, ay kukuha ka ng 5 sa 20 power banks. Then, ang favorable natin, we should be getting 2 defective power banks, and the rest are non-defective. So, that will be 3 non-defective power banks. Okay? Now, to solve for the number of favorable outcomes, kukuha tayo ng dalawa dito sa tatlo. So, that is 3, choose 2, times, kukuha tayo ng tatlo sa 17. So, that is 17, choose 3. Okay? So, to compute for the number, for the probability, again, use your calculator, and this will be 5 over 38. 5 over 38. Alright. So, that will be the probability that y is equal to 2. Next, probability that y is equal to 3, the last random variable. So, that will be, again, ang number of favorable outcomes ay 20, choose 5. And then, number of possible outcomes is 20, choose 5. And then, number of favorable, we should be getting 3 defective. So, dapat may makuhang 3 defective. And then, the rest are non-defective. So, there are 2 non-defective. Okay, next. So, 3 defective and 2 non-defective. So, to solve for the number of favorable outcomes, that will be 3, choose 3, times number of non-defective, that will be 17, choose 2. 17, choose 2. And then we use our calculator, and the answer here is 1 over 140. Okay? So, this will be the discrete probability distribution of random variable y representing the number of defective power banks in a delivery of 5 power banks. Okay? So, that is the discrete probability distribution. Next, a basket contains 10 ripe and 4 unripe bananas. If 3 bananas are randomly taken from the basket, determine the possible values of the random variable r representing the number of unripe bananas and construct its probability distribution. So again, we are to construct the probability distribution or the discrete probability distribution in this problem, we have to identify first the values of the random variable r. So, R again represents the number of unripe bananas. So, number of unripe bananas. And then, identify the values of random variable R. So, the values of random variable R are 0, 1, 2, and 3. So, bakit 0, 1, 2, and 3? So, it is possible na kapag kumuha tayo ng 3 bananas, it is possible na lahat na makuha natin ay ripe. Okay? So, that will be 0 unripe. It is also possible that we get 1, and it is also possible that we get 2, and it is possible that we get 3. Lahat ng makukuhang bananas ay 3. 3 unripe bananas. So, it is possible because there are 4 unripe bananas in here. In the basket. Okay? So, these are the values of random variable r. Next, we construct the discrete probability distribution. This is discrete probability distribution even if it's not stated in the problem because our random variable here is discrete. Okay, so again, to construct the discrete probability distribution, we compute for the probability of each random variable. So, we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's solve for the probability of each. Let's start with probability that r is equal to 0. So here, wala tayong makukuhang 0 unripe bananas, and then the rest are ripe. So that will be 3 ripe. Okay? So, 0 unripe bananas and 3 ripe. So, in the basket, there are a total of 14 bananas. So, there are a total of 14 bananas in the basket. 10 are ripe and then the rest are unripe. So, 4 unripe bananas. Okay, so, ang favorable natin dito ay 0 unripe at 3 ripe bananas. And then, ang all possible outcome natin is kukuha ng 3 banana in the basket. which contains 14 bananas. So our denominator here is 14, choose 3. Because we are to get 3 bananas randomly from 14 bananas. And then ang favorable natin, again, we have to use combination and multiplication rule. We will be getting 0 unripe bananas. So that will be 4, because there are 4 unripe bananas, 4 choose 0 times kukuha ng 3 sa ripe banana, so that's 10 choose 3. And this is 30 over 91. So that's the probability that R is 0. Next, probability that R is equal to 1. So dito, makakakuha ang favorable natin, makakakuha ng isang unripe bananas, and then the rest are ripe. So 2 ripe bananas. Okay? And again, our all possible outcomes will be 14 choose 3. Kasi ang pinaka-situation natin, kukuha ng 3 sa 14 na bananas. And then, that will be 4 choose 1. Kasi kukuha ng isa sa unripe, which is 4, times 10 choose 2. And then, we compute for the probability using our calculator. This is 45 over 91. Next, probability that R is equal to 2. Probability that R is equal to 2. So here, ang makukuhang unripe ay 2, and the rest are ripe. So that will be 1 ripe banana. So again, the number of all possible outcomes is 14, choose 3. And then, kukuha ng 2 sa unripe, so that's 4, choose 2, times kukuha ng isa sa ripe, so that's 10, choose 1. And this is 15 over 91. Last, probability that R is equal to 3. So, ang number of all possible outcomes, again, is 14, choose 3. And dito, kukuha ng 3 na ripe, so 3 ripe, and then, 3 unripe, and then the rest are ripe, so that will be 0. Okay, so 3 unripe, and then the rest are ripe, so 0 ripe. Okay, so this will be 4 choose 3 times 0 ripe, so that is 10 choose 0. And then we compute, this is 1 over 91. And this will be the discrete probability distribution. Okay. And that will be the last example. Do not forget to like and subscribe to e-sipnayan.